Hey everyone, welcome to the ROI of Peace. I'm so happy you're here. I'm sending you lots of hugs and loves. I have been on this deep dive lately of Alex Warren, and he is a musician, singer-songwriter, and I love his album. I love music. I don't know about you guys, but I listen to different music in the morning. I have work music, I have workout music, I have all sorts of genres. Scott got me for Christmas the gift of seeing Wicked. It's coming to Dallas, and I've been obsessed. I love the soundtrack. I love the music, and so I'm so excited. It's coming in May, so I cannot wait to go see it. Anyway, I've been down this deep dive of Alex Warren and what I love to hear the backstories. As you guys know, I love a little story of a person, and so I was listening to him on Jay Shetty's podcast. And he was telling a story about how his mom growing up, his father passed away and his mom just lost it and couldn't keep it together. She ended up becoming an alcoholic, would drive them to school in the morning drunk. That's how it was so bad. And she told him over and over again, you do not deserve to be a musician. You stink. You're not a good singer. All these things over and over again, to the point where he believed it so much. But then the story flipped and he's like, I wanted to sing and I started putting some things out there. Anyway, he's just telling about this beautiful journey, how he became who he is through the hard things, through the suffering. And his songs, I can tell, that's one of the things I love about his song is they have so much heartfelt power into them. And they're so open and raw about and inspiring too about his journey is so weaved into his songs, and I just absolutely love it. Well, he was telling on this other podcast that just because the algorithm was showing me all this stuff, and one of the things it was showing me, he was on this other podcast, and he's like, the song The Ordinary, which is he's most famous for, he just was on the Grammys singing it, that song, and he said, I posted about that song 180 times. It was some extraordinary, maybe 150. It was some extraordinary. All of them flopped except for the end. And he said, I knew that this was such a good song. I knew it within my soul that it was good. And I just had to keep believing over and over and over again that this would be successful. And I kept posting and I kept believing and I kept posting, and I would not let anybody tell me that this was not exactly the direction I needed to go into. And that's exactly what we get into with this podcast. And that's exactly what I believe. I believe that all of my clients, I tell them over and over again, you have been given a purpose on your heart for a reason. It's there for a reason. It's there for you. And when you start to forget, I want you to go back and believe over and over again that things will work in your favor, because they will. And it's about believing and never giving up and betting on yourself over and over and over again. It doesn't just take once. It doesn't just take one day. Okay, I'm going to bet on myself today. It takes over and over and over again to believe that you can do this thing, to believe that somehow it's going to work out. And sometimes it's a lot different than we think it is. I look back on my first business in my first career, I have wanted to go into therapy, and that's the direction I went into. And when I was there, I was like, oh, I do not want to do this. Just kidding. Well, I didn't know how to support myself so that it would be sustainable. I look back and on being in the marketing and market research space for so long, and then launching my first business is not what my business is today at all. But I had to have all those choices in order to get me to where I am today, and all those moments of success built upon each other. And you're here for a reason. Your business is here for a reason. You can do this. And this is what Kat and I talk about. We talk about the stories that other people tell us, and the people that we love and care about us. They're like, I don't know about that. I don't know if that's a good decision. But coming inward and trusting ourselves and betting on ourselves over and over again. I cannot wait for you to meet Kat Weaver. She sold her first company that she started in her college dorm room. And after winning 22 out of 23 pitches that she applied for, these are grants. Grants are funding that business owners can get. That's free money. It's not having someone take a share of your business. So she created Power to Pitch, which helps founders get funding faster. And to date, she's helped founders raise over $55 million in grants and venture capital and counting. And I can't wait for you to meet her. We dive into her story. She is a projector. So while looking at her human design chart, she has different centers that give her more energy. And so we look at that as being a projector with these ebbs and flows of energy, but having all this drive and then that inner fear of overworking. And how do we balance that in all the conversations? So I can't wait for you to meet her. Can't wait for you to be here. Thanks for being on listening. And let's spend more time together. So look in the show notes for ways that we can spend more time together. Pull your human design chart, see the gifts that you were born with, and come spend more time with me in my mastermind community where the app is, where friendships and real personal development takes place. All right, we'll see you inside the episode. Take a breath. You've got this. Kat, thank you so much for being on the show today. I'm so excited that you're here and that we're going to dive into your amazing human design chart. So thank you so much for being on the show today.
Well, I'm honored that you would ask and have me. So thanks so much, Courtney. I'm excited to be here.
This is great. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with a game first. And this is called Pick Your Piece. Now, this is from my app. And what this is this is the page on the app where it's the interferers. And so the interferers are cycles and patterns that we interrupt ourselves with. So that sabotage our success, that make it hard for us. And there's 12, okay? And you are going to choose a number 1 through 12, and I've assigned it randomly. And we're going to start with a visualization story with that interferer. So what number would you like?
I'll take 3.
3? Okay. 3 is, let me see. 3 is,
Does
3
my
is it? Oh, great. This is the over worrier. So this is the interferer that scans for danger, mistaking vigilance for control, worries about details, worries about things, and lets that interrupt their success. So we're going to go into this story. So friends listening, thank you so much for being on here. Thank you for listening. If you're in a seated position, you can go ahead and close down your eyes and we'll let the story begin. There once was a small sparrow who lived in the field at the edge of a forest. Every day she watched the sky, scanning the horizon for dark clouds. If she even saw one gray wisp, her heart would race. What if a storm is coming, she whispered. What if I'm not ready? So she spent her days fluttering from branch to branch, gathering twigs, checking the sky again and again. The more she prepared, the less she sang. One afternoon, she saw an older bird resting calmly on a nearby tree. The sky behind them was shifting. A few clouds, a little wind, but the elder bird didn't move. The sparrow flew over, frantic. Aren't you afraid? What if it rains? What if the wind comes? The elder bird looked up and smiled softly. I've flown through many storms, she said. They come, they pass, and the branches grow strong from the wind. You don't need to live inside the weather. The sparrow blinked. She never thought of that. She looked around. The breeze brushed her feathers. For the first time, she took a deep breath and stayed still. That evening, as the clouds drifted past and the sunlight touched the field, the sparrow began to hum again, a soft, simple song. The wind lifted, carrying her melody far beyond the trees. From that day on, her mind rushed ahead. She would whisper, I am safe. The storm will pass. And she would sing. What storms are you trying to predict or prevent even before they arrive? How has worrying ever truly kept you safe? Or has it just kept you restless? Well done. That's another investment in your peace. If you've closed your eyes, you can open your eyes. So, Kat, I would ask you, what did you feel during that story? What came to you?
One, I will say I wasn't expecting that level of depth and to enjoy it that much, to be totally honest. I loved that story. So perfect and timely. As I mentioned to you before this, even though I'm a coach, I have a coach of my own to level up and been really uncomfortable in like hitting these new tiers and reworking a lot of what we do. But it's in a good way. And what hit me the most of that story is when the birds spend so much time prepping and worrying, they weren't singing and living in their power. More than any other point in that story, I was like, duh, kind of thing, like, hello. And it's so obvious, but it was so powerful. So I really, really loved that. It was so meant for me in this moment. So
Yes.
thank you.
Yes. It's so funny. My clients, they'll come on and they're like, "Hey, I haven't done as much as the goals that we had set and all the things." And I'm like, "It's all good." But I feel that same way too when I'm on with my coach and my strategist. I'm like, "Oh, I haven't quite got this where I wanted it to go, or I haven't quite perfected this, or I'm overthinking different things and over worrying about different things." And I think it's so natural that we as human beings, especially as female founders, want to give our best, want to show up in certain ways and to crush it, like that's kind of what our dreams are. And our dreams are there for a reason, and we want to reach for them and we want to go for them. But it tells me too, that it's okay to show up as my own voice and put my own stamp on things and really trust myself. Even though I've hired different people for different things, I can still trust my own vision and we can refine it from there. So that trust is so important, that our voices really do matter. And I think with your story of this goes along so well is you've been raised by entrepreneurial parents, right? People
Who
who,
told me not to be an entrepreneur, by the way?
yes, they told you not to do it. And so, can you take us back to when they were telling you, maybe they still are telling you, hey, can you take us back to that story of like you wanted to be an entrepreneur and they were telling you no?
Well, I will say they're extremely supportive. I'm so lucky to have them. I wouldn't be where I am without their support. But I think as entrepreneurs, they know how mental and physical it really can be, and the stress and the level of risk and sacrifice. And they just, I think, didn't want me to experience maybe the level of pain and struggle that they had. So it was, oh my gosh, you could do so well at a corporate job, or this business isn't going to be enough for the lifestyle that you want. And I just refuse to believe that. And I trust their opinion, and they gave me an awesome life, but I still wanted more and a bigger life. And I knew that if I had this cap, I wouldn't give myself a shot or a fighting chance to do that. And I've also learned at a level that I never could have in a regular role. And I don't think I would do very well in it. I'm a quite competitive person. And so when I'd sold my first company and I was presented an offer to run a pitch program for this other organization. And they told me, and I remember this so vividly, of like, you know, you're used to running fast as an entrepreneur, but this is corporate. So the approval process for things might be a little bit slower and this and that. And I just kept thinking, this sounds so freaking boring. And I told my husband, I said, give me 3 months. And I talked to my dad about it, and they're like, okay, if that's what you think you want to do. And I knew in that just weeks, I was like, this is where I'm meant to be. Like it was in, there's a lot of outward voices and opinions and things, but that doesn't mean we have to listen to them.
Yes. And how did you like take in that information that they were giving you and other people in your life, but really solidify the direction that you wanted to go into? What was the process like of that?
I didn't have all the answers. I did have to go with my gut a lot, and I spent a lot of time also in researching, talking to customers, and investing in my own skills. Because when it took me too long to learn this, but if you invest
Yes.
in your own skills or support from someone who has accomplished or done what you want, it is going to be worth it every single time. And there's no reason to not have an ROI. I'll tell you, every single time that I've invested forward in myself, I would literally never not had an ROI, and I'm not an anomaly. And I tell my husband this all the time. I'm like, look at I invested in this coach or this resource or this health thing, and look at what's happened. And it's been an inspiring domino effect. But after I had sold that first company, I invested money I didn't have yet in a course in education and coach that I had no idea if it would work or not. But I spent a lot of time and effort, and I tripled my investment in that first month. And I had to use my TJ Maxx credit card to pay for it because I didn't have enough business credit. I didn't have enough cash to do it all. But I was like, I did my research. This is what I want to accomplish. So it's like getting an MBA, but cheaper. And I just took the risk to do it, but ensured that I was going to put in the effort to make it worthwhile. And I didn't tell my husband what or how much I was spending at the time. So I was like, this is my choice. And I saw my business and I'm going to make this work. And he heard after and was like, you did what kind of thing? And ended up being supportive, but was like, this sounds absolutely crazy. But he's in corporate. He's been in corporate his whole life. So that's also a different mindset and brainwave to be on, but it really helped that I had part of that program. I was required, in order to even ask a question,
Yes.
I had to conduct 50 interviews from who I think my ideal customer was. And I was like, I did 20, 30, I know this. And they were like, the questions you're asking tell us that you didn't do all 50. And I was like, oh my gosh, how did they know? Clearly there was a system there and I tried to cheat it and it didn't work out. So all 50 was a real game changer for me. And it's evolved past that point, but it was a really important turning point to pursue that education and then that effort to make it right.
Yes. And you talk about selling your first business. So you have pivoted from what you were doing originally to what you're doing now. And part of this takes self trust too, that we build self trust in the pivots, that what was right for us at the first may be not right for us right now. And it's okay to pivot and it's okay to change directions. How did you, and what was the internal story that you were telling yourself as you were pivoting to a whole new business?
Well, it was really hard emotionally at first because I put
Yes.
so much in that first business. I spent 6 years. I didn't pay myself for the first four. Like it was a total mental game. I had no experience. I didn't think I was good at it, but I still did it anyways. And it was more of shedding that person and those skills. And a really, really great book that I wish everyone could read is 10x is easier than 2x. And it talks a lot about shedding that old version. And, most people will only grow at a 2x rate, but you have to shed a lot of those old ways to be able to hit that next level and that 10x level. And it's actually going to be easier because you remove a lot of the noise in your life to hit that versus trying to do and be all of the things. So I went through more of an emotional thing of like, this is what I was known for. I was the face of the brand. This is all that I had known, and I was going into a space that, I saw the problem, I lived the problem. That's why I was like, I don't think there's enough good solutions, which is why I want to create the solution. That crazy entrepreneur brain, we have a bajillion ideas all the time, but this one felt so much more compelling. And my claim to fame is I won 22 of 23 pitches that I applied for, which isn't like luck, that's a strategy. And I used that system really that I had come up with almost like copy and paste each time. And not that it's that easy, but it was like, okay, if I can do this, and I met all these other entrepreneurs who don't know what their capital options are or how to communicate for it, there's a problem here. And then I started a side hustle for it. So I didn't just go all in. I started as a side hustle to the main business and built my own trust around that. But I'm going to bet on myself every single time. There's no doubt about that. I'm competitive. I played sports in college, but you know, I'm all that I've got in this life. There are other factors I can't control, but I can control me and my actions. And that's what I was willing to bet on.
Yes. And I think that betting on ourselves, that energy of saying, I can do this. I know what it takes. And I can feel the purpose that's on my heart of doing this. And I can see the testing of the results that are coming to me. And if I go all in, this is what can happen. And this is the growth that can happen. And I can do this. You know, that feeling is the best. But sometimes that feeling doesn't feel quite like it's all there, you know? And so what
Oh
would you
yeah,
tell?
no, like, oh
Yeah.
my God, I think I'm so good at this. Like there is
Yes.
a ton of imposter syndrome. Like I deal with that on an
Yes.
almost daily basis, but you just get better at dealing with it and coming up with some tools and ways to manage it, but it's always there.
Yes. Yeah, digging that deep. So when that imposter syndrome comes up, because again, it comes up for everybody all the time, right? It's just what it is. I love listening to stories of, I've been on this Alex Warren kick, you know? And like, I love his music, and I listening to him on a podcast, and he was saying for the song The Ordinary, which is all over the place, he's like, I had to post 180 times or something crazy like that before it took off. You know what? Before it even took off, he's like, but I kept knowing that every other post flopped except for toward the end. He's like, I kept knowing that this song was meaningful and powerful and stuff. And so I kept believing in that. But we all have this imposter syndrome of, well, the results aren't matching what I believe. So how do you navigate that?
Well, I have a couple tactics, but I do want to give this one example of, you know, my coaches shared this with us in a session where it was like, if you want to go viral or you want this level of success, but you're here, if I gave you X amount of money or X amount of leads, I guarantee you can't handle it right now. You don't have the structure, the system, the processes in place so good that you haven't hit that yet because you need a better foundation so you don't flop when that opportunity comes. So I also have that in my mind of like the wait and the patience in between is so purposeful. Not mistaking that for lack of effort or iterating and improving, but going for the virality in like 0 to 100 is not as realistic because you probably can't manage it. But what I will say on the imposter syndrome front, I tell this all the founders that I work with is I think everyone, not even just entrepreneurs, should have their own hype file or wins tracker, as I call it. A nice email, customer review, someone texts you something nice, you get a PR feature, you screenshot it and you put it in this file in a folder for a rainy day. Don't need to look at it now, but you have to log those things because the biggest lie we tell ourselves is, I'll remember that, or me at least. And so I'm not going to remember all those moments. And sometimes I go back and I go, oh my gosh, we got this founder that win. Or I got a random text from a guy in college who's like, oh my gosh, I'm seeing all the content you're putting out. Just wanted to say so proud of you. It's so inspiring. Take care. Bye. That was the message. And I'm like, wait, that was so kind. They didn't have to do that. And I'm going to want to smile again about that someday. So I screenshot it and it's in my little hype file. And so if you take 5 minutes less and go through that in the moments that you need it or you're doubting yourself or your effort or where you're going, guaranteed fix every single time. The second tactic I have is the 5-minute timer rule. And I got this from a woman who was keynoting. She had cystic fibrosis. So she spent more of her life in the hospital than not. And the one day she's just like really extra down. And her mom said, all right, that's it. I'm so tired of seeing you mope. You've got a life to live. You're going to set a 5-minute timer. I'm going to come back and then we're going to live our lives. And you're not allowed to be sad anymore. That's her pity party time. And she left. She came back and she's now in her 40s. And the average person with cystic fibrosis is in their 20s and doesn't make it very far. It's a really, really horrible disease. But I think that positivity and action she claims that that's what has helped get her to where she is. And so I think about that of like, if that person can have that level of control, discipline, and path forward, then I have no excuse. And so I had a friend that, a really low moment in her business and making decision. And she came over and wanted this pity party. And I looked at her and I was like, I'm going to stop this for 5 minutes and you get to cry. I'm going to leave you to it and I'm going to come back down and then we're going to hang out. And she looked at me like I had 7 heads and she could have been mad, but it changed her whole day. Like just because you have a bad moment, it's not a bad day, week, or a bad life. So I think those 2 tactics are the examples behind them because otherwise I'm an example person, and it didn't resonate with it until I had the example of what that really meant.
Yes, totally. Well, and that's like I have felt the power of not feeling like feeling those feelings, being in those emotional times, and not extrapolating that this is going to be my life, that this is going to be how the whole trajectory of my business is going to go, right? Entrepreneurship has its ups and downs, and it is has beautiful highs and really terrible lows, but those lows, sometimes when we're in the lows, we're like, well, is this how it's going to be forever, and that lack of hope or that lack of vision can be really soul crushing. One of the things that MS has taught me so deeply is that, one day is going to be bad, but the next day is going to be great, and we were talking about how yesterday for me was great, but the day before I was actually in bed the whole day because I'm on this new medication and stuff. And so, and in those moments, I always have to remind myself the lows never stick around, the highs never stick around, but it's really like the lows really teach me how to be happy. They teach me how to be happy in the highs and teach me how to celebrate and be happy with this journey. I'm always so excited for the little things that add up to big things. And I typically in the past would not have celebrated those things. I would have just moved on, been like, get it going, hustle on to the next thing. But those joys and the joyful moments are so impactful. And that's what really helps us to have the bigger vision to keep going. So, and with your human design, it is all about bigger vision. Your human design has bigger vision all over the map, and it's so crazy, and I love it so much.
Yeah, you can see my vision board because
Yes!
she's big.
Oh my goodness. And everybody listening, all our friends, if you're new to human design, human design is a personality test tool. It's how you operate best. It's the gifts that you were born with. So if you love Enneagram and you love Strength Finders, you're going to love human design even more. There's about 35 to 40 parts on everybody's chart, and we're just going to touch on a few of your story with your human design. And we always start at the beginning of human design, which is your human design type. So that's kind of the way you operate best, some of the gifts that you bring to this world. And you are a projector. I'm a projector too. So this is so exciting. And the mantra for projectors are people are powerfully impacted by my wisdom. You as a projector are here to see systems and possibilities really clearly. You have the gift of having this zoomed out perspective. So if you're like, wait, we're here and we want to go over here, there's a few steps that we need to do to move the needle forward. Whereas other design types would be like, we need to do 500 million steps. You can see clearly and navigate the strategy of that bigger picture to go to that next step really in a sustainable way. And your gift isn't doing more, but seeing more. Your gift is in the seeing of those things. And so you naturally see how things can work out more efficiently. You spot misalignments before others do. You're a natural guide and coach and refiner and elevator of ideas and perspective. And one of the other things with being a projector is that your energy is not always on. It's not always go, 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 go. And so you can refuel yourself by taking pockets of some downtime, taking pockets of being in a really good environment. That makes a huge impact on who you are and what you're doing. So as you're building things, know that you need support, not only from a structure standpoint, because you're in the big picture scheme of things. And so having someone support you through the build out of those things is really important, because burnout can be a huge thing with projectors. We can act like, as female founders, especially as female founders, one of the things I found out before I knew my human design is I was just running and running and going all the time. And I'm like, why can't I wake up at 5 a.m. and work all day long? Like these other people that I see, why am I getting tired? That's a weakness. But, it's actually a really strength in how you are able to make things efficient and to go forward with that. Where have you felt the pressure to do everything and be everything? And how have you learned to create support in your own business journey?
Such a loaded question because
Right?
I'll lead with my first business. I grew it in a way where I was forced to hate it. I hit that level of burnout that I was so over it by the time I wanted to sell. And I was actually under contract 4 times, and the third time fell through the week of my wedding. So, like, the level of burnout was absolutely through the ceiling. I was so over it. And I was like, why would I even start another business? I hated that, kind of thing. And I did a lot and had a lot of great success and learning and relationships. But what has helped me with this second business is hiring support and investing in someone who's achieved what I haven't to see my gaps. I wish I did that sooner. It has changed my life. And one of the recent things is, well, 2 core things I wish I did sooner is to help find that balance and have less burnout is my first hire should have been an executive assistant. I always thought that was for wealthy, snobby people who had to pretend, or, and you see people joke like, oh, here's my assistant. I'm too cool for you. And it was like, no, no, no. You're out of the manual tasks in your inbox so you can go make big sales and do big things and be focused and not be caught in the distractions. I could tell any entrepreneur, and Dan Martell has a really good hiring ladder in his book, Buy Back Your Time, where it talks about your first, second, third, fourth, fifth type of hire. And I just wish I really did that sooner. I did not think that that was the person that I should have brought on. It took me 3 years into this first business to really get a handle on that. So that was the first layer. And the second is building out what your perfect week looks like. And I'll tell you, I struggle with, like, I always want to add another task or thing on my to-do list. I'm super not even overachiever. It's just sometimes it's even busy work, but like I'm not that person who can sit still and watch TV. So I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna do this other task instead. Or, I'm gonna go do this, and this. I am like 10 people in one, sometimes at hyperspeed, but that leads to super quick burnout. And I know that, but I will admit that I'm not. I can figure that out fully. So my coach is like, you build out your perfect week, time block, less context switching. When does your laptop open? When does your phone turn off? When do you go to bed? Like, you have to preset that plus your date nights, plus your time off. As I'm a to-do list planner action item person, super type A OCD. I don't know if you've already got that on my projector profile, but I'll give that to you as a freebie because I am. And those things have helped me because I'm like, oh, if it's on my list, got it. And it started as my husband was like, all right, your laptop gets closed at this time because I want to have dinner with you, or you're actually not doing good work. And I completely agree. But I'm working on even being better about setting those boundaries. And I think this type has to, because otherwise you'll go past those guidelines pretty quickly.
Yes, and those burnout will come in and the body is telling us, "Hey, you're losing it, you're losing steam, or the anxiety and the stress is just running through all the moments." And that really is a sign, but oftentimes we just burn past that. So and I can already tell, and I knew this before, one of your interferers is overworking. And that often happens with projectors, right? Because they're just trying to keep up the pace with other design types that have lots of energy, that are doing lots of things. And one other part on your human design chart gives you a lot of extra energy. And we'll go into that in a little bit. But it's really important to listen to our bodies, to listen to that schedule that says, hey, this is my downtime. I'm taking lunch and I'm not working at the same time. That's one of the things I do is I take a lunch break and I actually eat and not multitask. I know, wild. And it really helps me to have a better afternoon and to have will have any kind of an afternoon because my energy with MS is so volatile. And so it really is about listening to ourselves and listening in that way. So one of the other things that will give you that gives you more energy but also can give you highs and lows is your emotional inner authority. Now your inner authority is how you make decisions best. And so the mantra for this is I make decisions from clarity, not urgency. So an emotional inner authority has highs and lows. You're riding this wave, kind of like the ocean. So just like the ocean, high tide, or it's like, oh, yay, everything's going well. And then the lows are like, oh my goodness, this is the worst. And so I want you to make decisions from this place of contentment. Think about when the ocean is at that place of stillness, where it just feels like it's not too high or too low. That's when you can make that decision from a place of wisdom and not necessarily from doubt or from emotional highs or too lows. And so you're looking for this pocket of peace, of grounded alignment when you're making those decisions. Have you noticed this emotional wave kind of taking you in highs and lows?
Maybe I'm not labeling it as emotions because, it's hard. I have a team of 7. So I need to make sure that I'm in check because that energy is contagious. So I don't know if I've ever thought of it that way or even, I'm a naturally super hyperactive person. So the only time that I sit still is when I'm very ill. And to the point, I felt like I almost had COVID a month ago and I had spent the Sunday just laying for a couple hours with my husband and he turns over and looks at me. He goes, "You aren't feeling well." I was like, "Why?" Because I'm actually sitting down. He goes, "Yep, exactly." And so maybe that's part of that. And I'd love if you have like tools or tactics to recognize or help regulate that because there's always a Slack message or an email and I'm trying not to be reactive and I try to silence my phone and do not disturb and try to batch things in that way. But I'm a super hyperactive person. So I'd love to pass that back to you. Like, what do
Yes.
you think or what do you do for that?
Yes. I think one of the things that when you're looking at activity and you're like, I feel better in activity, and that's going to other places in your human design chart too. With this emotional center, you have another center that's the drive center that you're like, oh, I need to be doing things all the time. And then we'll get into this another one too if we have time. But you have your brain center and your ajna center, which is ideas and inspiration going all the time. So you wake up and you're on, and you're going, right? It doesn't mean that you're a robot and you're meant to do like 500 things a day, right? And so really when you think about impacting your day the most, look for those activities like working out, like taking walks, like doing yoga, something that's regenerative to you. One of the things I've been picking up lately is like painting and pottery and like getting into things like that where I'm like,
Kind
yes,
of, yeah,
like, well,
makes sense.
yeah,
I
I'm,
don't cuddle because I have to focus
yes.
on pieces and okay, makes sense.
Yes. Yeah. And so those are pouring into you, right? We talk about this like self-care word, but I think sometimes that's overused, and I want to like rebrand it as something else. But it's like this restorative care, that restorative things that really light you up, that get you excited to do things, but you're not doing work. You're not sitting in front of a computer. Your brain is actually not thinking necessarily about to do or task, but it can still be inspired by things. You're emotional, you're giving your emotions a kind of a break, in those waves of ups and downs, because it can be really overanalyzed in different analytical ways too. And that's a lot of pressure as well. So do you do certain things like that or is that what you're working into your days as you think about your schedule?
No, the only thing I've really done is puzzles. I'm super into fitness.
Yes.
I work out every day, or I take my dog for a walk, but then I catch
Yes.
myself doing some emails because I'm like, oh, I'm multitasking. So
Yes.
I love those other things. I would have to like plan for it, because if I don't
Yes.
buy it or do that, I'm like, I'll just another time, another time. So I love those ideas. I definitely have to think through them because it's not on my list or I haven't pre-planned for it, it's not happening.
Yes, totally. And it's those pockets of being really present, you know? I was just watching because the Olympics are coming, and I was watching some stories about the Olympics. I think it's ice dancing. And it was just really fascinating to hear their stories about how when they go on the ice, they visualize what they're going to do. But they're also like, we're really in the moment. You know, we've practiced this routine, we've done the muscle memory of all this. And the more fun and the more in the moment that we can have during this performance, the better things happen. And that's what I want you to do is I want you to get to be more present in the moments and think about the multitasking as not really as positive as a lot of times we think it is. Because sometimes when we're multitasking, we're like, we give half to one thing and half to another thing, right? But if we can just be present in one thing, we can be truly inspired about what's happened next. I have been developing this app it's been about 8 months or so. And it started with this idea that came to me, I think while I was either on a walk, just on my walks, I just kind of either I do some like spiritual practices, but then I also send a voice message to my husband and stuff like that. We voice message. And anyway, it was just some random time, or I was about to fall asleep. I can't remember which one it was, but I was like, wait, an app? I was like not even on my radar. And how I approach personal development is I don't want another visualization app. There's so many of those. I want something that's really tied to where people are at with their human design, with their inner fears. I've developed a Peace Coach AI model that can really help people like, hey, this is what I'm struggling with. But because the model knows where they're coming from, it can greater help them to where they need to go, you know? But never in my mind would I have thought about that. And so those moments of presence really fuel creativity and really fuel clarity. So bringing in those moments of that can really help sustain you as you go forward and reach those other goals and have those times where presence can really be powerful. But we need to schedule it because I'm like you. I'm like, if it's not scheduled, and plus I love a good routine. It just helps me. I'm a routine person, you know?
I've lived for it. I lit
Yes.
my live and breathe by my calendar for sure.
Yes, it's amazing. So, what other part on your human design chart is when we're looking at that body graph, there's all these lines on them, and the lines that are colored in are gates or channels, and they're basically the same thing. They're gifts that you were born with. And so you have gate 41, and this is the dream seed. The mantra for this is I see powerful possibilities. You see the possibilities, the new beginnings, the imagination. You don't just imagine it, you see this futureness of it. Again, this big picture comes again over and over again. You're a big picture thinker and lean into that. I always tell people too, I'm like, put this on your landing pages. Like these things are what makes you special. It's like what separates the Target and the Walmart, you know, like they're both cool, but like everybody's looking for certain things, you know, but you sense the possibilities and the outcomes and see this hidden potential in people and systems, and you inspire others to move forward with this hope. So, how have you seen what's possible for others before they could even see it?
No one's shared that. So I guess I haven't really thought of it that way. But it's always easier when it's not you, right? When you look at someone else's plan or whatever. But two examples. One, I had hired her initially as my current executive assistant. She was doing all these other tasks, and I was like, where do you need help? I could see that she would take on other things in the best way. Like I was searching for someone who didn't want to be micromanaged and could, you know, go the extra mile. And when I had asked, she was like, I think it's time to hire someone to replace me so I could do this. And I think I gave her the tools to make that decision, but she was also extremely mature enough to be able to make that decision, you know, maybe by empowering her in other ways. I don't want to take credit for that because that was technically her idea, but by asking that, I think it helped. And then one exercise that my coach had given me is you have to ask someone what their 5+ years goals are, or ask them, what would it take for you to be with me forever? So there's not as much turnover. Like seriously, what are your goals? You are working in a way to make their dreams come true, not your dreams. And that was so powerful for me. And his example, like he asked even his housekeeper this, and she said she wanted a dog. So we got her a dog. And like, it's kind of funny, but not in the fact that like you want the right people around you to do the right things. Like you got to power that. And one other example. So I'd initially brought on this woman to help with an assistant and person with me. And she just had a really good eye for content and things naturally. And I'd asked, I was like, I know this isn't what you sign up for, but would you instead be open to being my social media director? And it was literally could not be more opposite role. And now she's been in that position for months and taking the creative side and helped me dress and do my makeup. And like, so that was really cool. But I think when you're searching for patterns and figuring out what people's goals are, that might give you a more direct answer versus trying to be intuitive about it.
Yes, totally. Well, and the energy that you have of seeing the possibilities, the visionary, the potential, that really does shine with other people. You know, there's this energetic exchange that we always have with people before we even open our mouth, you know, and that inspiration of being able to see that in other people, allow them to move forward. That's not this micromanaging situation that really allows to set people free, and you give them that space to be able to do that, and you've given your business space to be able to grow in that way too. And I think that is such a great way to celebrate yourself, and to see this gift really coming to life. And with all gifts, as we learn about it, we naturally develop them more or lean into them more, which I think is the cool thing about human design. One of the gifts that on my chart is the gift of communication. And I was like, I don't really feel like I'm a really good communicator. I kind of feel like sometimes it
Yeah.
works, sometimes it doesn't, but the gift of speaking, and that's how this whole podcast came about. I was like, well, if I have this gift, why don't I play with it and see what happens and see how I can lean into it even more? And that has really been the sandbox of creation of these gifts that has enacted so much success, but success done in a way that feels so fun and so good, Like, I love this connection that we get to have together and that our friends listening get to have. It's just so beautiful seeing their comments, and they're like, I got so much out of this episode. I felt like there's so many Me Too moments, and that's exactly what I wanted and I've always wanted. But it's really interesting as we play with these gifts, we get to see them even more. So when we talk a lot about ROI in business, it's marketing, it's sales, it's performance, all these really measurable markers of success. But in the ROI of peace, it's different. It's this return that fuels everything else: clarity, resilience, sustainable success, creativity. And the ROI of peace has its own indicators of joy and alignment and peaceful success. Which area in your life are you asking for more peace right now? Physically, emotionally, spiritually, relationshiply? Where are you focused in on your next levels of peace?
I will say, uh, in my own category, whichever you think it aligns in
Yes.
terms of like peace with my calendar and not always having to be on, like you mentioned, because it's so
Yes.
hard for me to turn off. And it's funny enough, we're about to leave for a vacation, and I told my team I'm turning off my Slack notifications. I will only answer you before 12 p.m. Central. These days, I have these calls, and you will not find me anywhere. I am not that important, and unless someone is dying, like it just that's no other contact is needed. So I have to make a conscious effort of like create space for not constant work and being busy. That's not as always a good thing. So whatever bucket you think that categorizes as.
Yes, totally. Space. Exactly. I feel like that is so vital. I feel like so many entrepreneurs are in that same boat with like, well, I'm on vacation and I should just check in on this, but usually because of our businesses, yeah, no one's dying. You know what? We're not surgeons, so no one's on the table in the life or death situation typically. So that is really powerful. I think that's so beautiful. Now, Kat, I know everybody wants to jump into your world and get to connect with you. And how do they do that best?
Can find me. I'm super active on LinkedIn, Kat Weaver, or Instagram and YouTube at I am KAT Weaver. So those are my two favorite places. And if you're an entrepreneur raising capital and you want some serious funding, that's my superpower. So you can apply to work with me at power2pitch.com/apply.
Perfect. And we'll have those in the show notes. And everybody go be friends. You need her in your life. I love your LinkedIn post, and I love that you're helping founders scale in a way that can get them to their purpose and get them to the success that they desperately need. Thank you, Kat, for being on the show today. This has been so special.
Oh my gosh, for me too. It's so cool that you went through this level of effort to figure out my profile and types. And I kept thinking, oh my gosh, she's like in my house and every day and really knows me. It's all this stuff, which is so funny. So it was such a treat. So thank you so much, Courtney.
Oh, thank you. And friends, thank you so much for being on the episode. It means everything to me. Like, I see all the listeners all over the world. And if this episode brought you more peace, the simplest way to support the show, and it makes such a big difference, is to follow, rate, leave a review, and then share this with a friend who needs this too, because that's the gift that we get to give with each other, is that connection and that love and that support of each other. So thank you so much for being here today, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.